Okay, welcome to this Zealyst tutorial. So, imagine you just got Zealyst. You're super excited to get it up and running and get your classes or teams or whatever connecting with each other. So, to start off with, you'll need to navigate to the admin domain. So, I'm going to just copy and paste that link into my browser. So, you can see it right here. That is the current admin link. So before we get too far, I just want to quickly note that the version of Zealyst you'll receive may be slightly different from this version. So, for example, the URL might change, right? Or your login information will not be the same. But I'm just going to pretend, for the sake of clarity, that we're all using the exact same instance of Zealyst. So, I'm going to navigate to that domain. Great. So now we see ourselves at the admin page. So once you navigate to this page, you'll just want to log in. The admin username currently in this instance is admin, and the password is default zebra with a capital D and a capital Z. So also just a quick note, the admin and the user pages look very similar. However, you can tell that you're on the admin URL by this little admin right here. It says this content is for admin users only. Makes sense. Great. So then we're gonna sign in. Oh, I must have typed the password incorrectly. Let's try that one more time. Okay, great, and we're in. So I'm going to just basically walk you through all the different aspects of the admin interface. So once you're in, the first thing you're going to want to do is create a new league. So first of all, I want to point out that I already have a league created right here. You see that I have a league with an ID name 1. And you can see some of this additional information, which I'll go into shortly. But why do I have a league right now? Why didn't I just leave it with no leagues and then just allow and then just show you how to create a league? Well, as the game is currently set up, it's impossible for players to sign up and create an account before a league has been created. So making a league is the very first thing you'll want to do. And really briefly, a league is basically a broad, large group in which many different teams can be created. So likely you'll only need to create one league while running Zealyst, and then you can just have many different teams within that league. But let's say you have many different classes that you teach or something, then you might want to consider separating those classes by league, creating a different league for each class. So let's say you do want to create a new league. What you'll want to do is you'll just want to press the new league button. Great. Now you see another league appeared right here. It's a league with the ID name 2, and now you have a league. So from there you can edit the league name and add some notes to it, like so. So I can press the edit league. I can just say class Uno, and I can add some notes to it. This is a cool class. Currently right now there are some features in this instance of Zealyst that are not being used. So those are the scheduled start time right here. You see you can't actually edit that, as well as the completed time. That doesn't actually get triggered at any point, so that never gets a value embedded in it. We're working on getting these features up and running, but for now, don't worry about them. They're not too important. Same thing with the target player count. You can edit it, but it doesn't actually really have any effect in your gameplay or in anything administration related. So yeah, then you can just save that. You can see the notes pop up there and a more specific class name, or ID name pop up right there. Awesome. Let's see what else. So now you have a league and you're going to want to make some teams. So we're going to navigate over to the teams header, the teams button right here. And now you'll see this page, which is the Teams tab. So you see the Add New Team button right here, and you're going to want to press that. So click, boom. Now we have a new team. It's called Unnamed Team right now. Has some additional information. We'll go over all of that shortly. But really quickly, the team will remain unnamed until the players choose their own team name. So let's see, there are a few other things worth noting on the Teams tab. So first of all, you'll want to note that under the members header, let's see, right over here, there's a number, and this number has a hyperlink. If you click that number, it'll take you to the Players tab and show you all the players currently on the team. So I'm not going to click that for now. We'll go into that more when we're on the Players tab, but it's just kind of a useful little shortcut. So under the Number Completed tab, you can see how many players have completed whatever game we're currently on. So right now we don't actually have any players assigned. We don't have any players assigned to this team, so we're not going to see anything come up there. Okay, so now this next part is fairly important. So there are two primary ways to move a team through a game in Zealyst. So first of all, we can use this move all teams from game blank to game blank. So let's say we're all the teams just finished game 1, right? So we can set that to 1 and then set this to 2. So now we're going to move all the teams that we have. So let's say we had like multiple teams or something up here. Then we can move all of those teams from game 1 to game 2, and then I just press execute, and that will happen. I'm not going to press that right now because there are no players in these games, so that it just wouldn't do anything. So you could also potentially like send all players from game 1 to 3 or something if you wanted to skip game, but I would not recommend doing that because some of the games have data that is drawn from previous games, so you might get some weird errors if you start skipping around in order of games. So now the other way to move teams between games is by pressing the Edit Team button over here. So right now you see the current game index is set to registration, right? So that's what game they're currently on. So if I wanted to change that to Meet Your Team and then hit save, now you see this current game change from game 1, from game 0 to game 1. So now anyone in this team is going to be on game 1, which is called Meet Your Team. Let's see what else. So that's I think that's basically it in terms of moving players around in the game, or sorry, moving teams around between games. But I'd say just in general, you'll want to use this function if you're dealing with a lot of teams, and this function when you're just kind of testing a couple individual teams or something. But this is definitely useful if you're running like a large class or a company with lots of different teams. Okay, let me see. I think there's a couple other things that are probably worth going over. From the edit tab, you can also just send, or I don't know, you can write a couple of notes, just this is my team, and then you'll see those appear right over here. Can be just useful for keeping track of which team is which for your own use. Okay, awesome. So just a couple more quick things about the Teams tab. If we press this Edit Team, you also see the League ID, which shows what league all of these teams you're creating are currently in. That's just a nice little useful indicator. As I think I already mentioned, but I might not have. But you can add notes here. This is my team. It's awesome. And then also here you see the score and you see the match score. Score should be a team's overall score. throughout all games. Match score should be the team's sorry, the team's specific score on any given game. But match score does not always populate correctly. That's something worth keeping an eye out for. It's also not super important for anything admin related. Just going to save that. And now, another important feature of the Teams tab is the auto-create teams in current league. Let's say you have a bunch of players and you want to assign them to teams without needing to assign each player individually through the process we'll see when we move over to the Players tab. But, well, if that's the case, then you can press the Assign Teams button. So there are... Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Okay. Let's see what happened there. Okay, that's not a big deal. Nothing happened because there were players. So that's a point I will get to shortly. Basically, there are two options. You can either use the default or the diversify by location. The difference is a little bit murky, and it's something we still need to review further and spend more time documenting, especially as it likely will have some powerful implications for creating affinity-based teams. But right now, as far as we can tell, the default selection assigns teams more or less randomly, while the diversify by location uses some of the interests of each player, the interests they selected at the beginning of the game, and makes sure each team has a somewhat diverse set of players. As I briefly mentioned, there are also likely ways to assign players based on common interests, and that's something we're going to definitely need to explore more, because that could have some powerful implications. So then, just as there is an assign teams button, there's also an unassigned team. So really quickly looping back to when I pressed assign teams, why nothing happened. So it says teams and will be created and populated using unassigned players only. So the reason why nothing happened was because when I pressed that, we didn't have any unassigned players. All the players I'd had were already assigned to teams. Okay, and we'll get to that in a second when I go over to the Players tab. But really quickly, finally, there's the recompute scores button. This is a real shocker. It recomputes the scores for each team. Personally, I've never really found any real need for this button, but it could come in handy if something goes wrong and some of the team scores look off or something along those lines. Okay, so now we've got the Players tab. I'm going to really quickly just do this, and you'll see why in a second. But very broadly, the Players tab allows us to look at who's on a given team and change what players are on that team. So we navigate through each team via the drop-down menu. So currently we're looking at Team 1. And right now you see this label, unassigned players. So below it, we have all the players who are not currently assigned to a team. So now you see this add to team button. Well, when I press it, it allows me to add a player to a team, right? So now you can see that this current team member's header appears, and now Harry Potter, this player, is on the current team, which is Team 1. You can also see the team member header right over here just increased from 0 to 1. It was at 0, now it's at 1. So that indicates that there's currently one player on the team. Also, you can quickly note that here appeared the note that I wrote on the previous section. Awesome. So we can add players by pressing the Add to Team button. Likewise, we can remove players by pressing the Remove from Team button. Okay, so remove from team, add to team. Pretty straightforward. This shows you what players are not yet assigned to teams. This shows you which players are on the current team. Now there's one thing I want to show you, and I briefly touched on this earlier, but when we go back to the Teams tab, you can see these numbers, right? So these numbers indicate how many players are on that given team. And a quick note is that sometimes they don't update. If you change the number of players on a team and then go to Teams tab, you might need to hit refresh to update the number of players. See, now there's only the one player that I had on that team. So if I want, I can click that number and then it just takes me to the Players tab and shows me who that one player is on that team 1. And that can just be useful, you know, if you've got a bunch of teams running and you want to quickly navigate to a view where you can see all the players on a particular team. Awesome. We're going to quickly go over to the Game States tab. This tab, in my opinion, is a lot more fun than it is useful. So from it, you can see all the teams that have played a given game, as well as a lot of data on their current scores, the answers each player gave for each question, what are the different data fields that are present in each game, and some other additional information. So I just recommend playing around and seeing what data is present in each game. As usual, you use this drop-down menu to navigate around. You can select which game you want to be seeing. So I can go to like Meet Your Team, right? That will then show me the data for Meet Your Team. Because 0 players have started this game and 0 have completed this game, we're currently not seeing any data populating right here. But if there had been some players, we would see a little field of data appear here showing all the various scores on each game. Really quickly, the refresh button just recomputes scores. It could be useful if players are halfway through a game when you first open the page and then you want to see their final score once they finish. Of course, you could also just press the refresh button on your browser. Awesome. So again, just mess around, look through that, take it at your own pace. Now, quickly on to profile completion. We've got some interesting stuff here. So first, the awaiting email verification header. So currently, in this instance of Zealyst, there is actually no email verification process. So meaning this is useless, and we'll either remove it or we'll reinstate the email verification process. Only time will tell. Here we have accounts with no profile. They're just that. They're someone who did the initial sign up process, meaning they entered their name and email, but then didn't complete the rest of the registration process. So then we see incomplete profiles. Basically the same thing as accounts with no profiles, but it's just like they started creating their profile, but then exited it out halfway through. And finally, we have completed profiles, and these are the profiles that have been completed and are ready to go. They're the profiles that can actually play the game, the profiles that you can assign to teams. Okay. Really quickly, this refresh database button. This is the big red button, the big nuclear end. If you press it, all data will be deleted, and I mean all data. So just really make sure you want to press it. Finally, we have the Mailer tab. This is a handy dandy little tab with a rather obvious use. It allows you to send emails to players. So you can choose to email teams or individuals. And then there are a couple other modifiers throughout here that allow you to target players. You can choose to email players with incomplete profiles, maybe asking them to complete their profiles, or you can send them to all players with complete profiles, or you can choose to send emails to players at a specific game index, and you can choose that by this drop-down menu. And you can also choose whether or not you want to send them to a specific league or to all leagues. So really quickly, the selected league. Also, this is something I should have mentioned, the league tab. Right here you see what league you are currently selected on, or what league you have currently selected. So we are in League 1. That would send emails to all players in League 1. And you can also choose the game status. So you could choose to send emails to people with incomplete games, or people who have started games, or just people anywhere in the game. So if I check just some of these things, boom, 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 then I can, and then I can press send, and then the email will be sent. So I believe that is all, folks. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this instructional video. I hope it was helpful, and we'll see you on the other side, whatever that may mean. Okay, thank you.